Today we're honoring Senator J. Bennett Johnston, whose foundation has made a major gift to the John P. Laborde Energy Law Center at LSU Law.
Bennett, as you may know, was the chairman of the Senate Energy Committee for many years, was always, in the time that he was in the Senate, was recognized as the preeminent energy legislator. Worked very closely with both sides of the aisle. He was also recognized as one of the more open, bipartisan members of the Congress. Those people really did exist back then. So it's a great celebration. It is a typically generous and selfless act by Bennett, and those of us who worked for him and with him are honored and thrilled to be here.
One of the most exciting things at LSU, and there are a lot of exciting things, is the Energy Center at the law school. And today I'm announcing a grant from the Johnston Science Foundation of some $800,000, which will go into a fund which will be matched, we hope, by other people interested in the LSU Law School. And we hope to get some of our top energy lawyer students to have internships all around the country, and this grant will fund those internships and will be available to the law school for other purposes as well.
The Greater New Orleans Foundation works in coordination with the Science Foundation, and they're going to make a grant to the Law Center to help promote students doing internships and things of that nature who are involved in the program. So I think it's a great program. It's going to help students. It's going to help the law firms and organizations they go and work for. So it's a great day.
Welcome, everyone. This is a very happy and special occasion for the LSU Law Center. We've come here today to announce a very significant gift to the Law Center by the J. Bennett Johnston Science Foundation, which of course is named for our former United States Senator and my former boss, J. Bennett Johnston, who served with enormous distinction in the United States Senate for 24 years, 4 terms, and was widely regarded in Washington and here as one of the great consensus builders and legislative leaders in the modern history of the Senate. One of Senator Johnston's signature accomplishments was, of course, in his capacity as the chair of the Senate Energy Committee. During that time, what seems today like a bygone era in the United States Senate and the United States Congress, he was a builder of coalitions on both sides of the aisle, and he was able to get things done that mattered to the nation and to the people of Louisiana. How much we wish that that were true today. And as we honor Senator Johnston here today, I'm sure that many of us think back on those years when he was our senator and was able to get these things done with a lot of fondness. Now let me say on a personal note that here today are a number of my fellow alumni of the J. Bennett Johnston years in the Senate. I wish I had time to recognize every one of you who are here, but I just want to say that, and I'm sure the senator feels the same way, it means a great deal to both of us to have you all here. I know many of you have traveled to be here. As a J. Bennett Johnston family, I think we feel as close to you, Bennett, and to your family as you can imagine. So we're all thrilled to have you with us today and to be here with you. Senator Johnston left behind, when he retired from the Senate in 1996, a track record of multiple major accomplishments in energy legislation and national energy policy. Among these, the National Energy Act of November 1978, the Energy Security Act of 1980, the Energy Policy Act of 1992. He was instrumental in the development and passage of many other significant items of legislation that, again, we don't have time to catalog here today. Senator Johnston remains active in the energy sector today. We, of course, are very honored to have him chair the advisory board of the John P. Laborde Energy Law Center here at LSU Law. Mr. Laborde is with us here today. Of course, he's one of our founding donors, and he remains very active in our center as well. And John, of course, we're happy to have you here at this ceremony, and I know Senator Johnston is as well. Senator Johnston serves on the board of directors of the Consortium for Advanced Simulation of Light Water Reactors, the advisory boards for the Center of Strategic and International Studies, or CICE, in Washington, the Angelino Group, Ambient Corporation, Ethanol Boosting Systems, and MIT Energy Initiative Series, and many, many other similar kinds of important and prestigious policy and related organizations. Now, let me say a word about the gift from the Johnston Science Foundation and what it will do for our law center. The gift is structured as a challenge gift, which is to say that we here at LSU Law must raise money to match the money in the pot, so to speak, donated by the Johnston Foundation. It's our hope that our joint efforts will raise a significant amount of money, in particular, as Senator Johnston said earlier today, to support what we call experiential learning opportunities for our students, internships, externships, where they can learn to do by doing. We earlier today had a meeting of the advisory board of the Laborde Energy Center, and I think it's fair to say that there was a strong consensus of those present that it's absolutely critical to the development of the energy sector lawyers and leaders of the future that they have these kinds of experiential learning opportunities to link with their classroom education here at LSU Law and across campus in the allied fields of engineering, science, economics, business, and the like. So this gift really goes to support one of the critical features of our new energy law program here at LSU, and one that I think we in Louisiana are uniquely situated to take advantage of because of the energy laboratory, if you will, that surrounds us here in Louisiana. So, Senator, I want to thank you for your service to the nation, Louisiana, and to LSU, and now to our law center. Mary Johnston Norris is here with us today. Mary spearheaded and helped us put together this gift. We're very grateful for that as well. Mary's going to have a few words to say, I think, in just a moment. But I want to thank the family, and I want to thank both of you. And again, I want to thank our fellow Bennett Johnston alumni. It's great to see all of you here today. Now, with that, let me call on a few people to add a few words to what I've already said, the first of whom will be the Senator's daughter, Mary Johnston Norris of New Orleans.
This is really so meaningful for me to be able to honor my father in such a way. When Dad retired from the Senate, I guess I should step back, and when I was a young adult, I had the opportunity to travel the state with Dad, and I saw so many of the projects that he had invested in. So much of a vision for the state of Louisiana with higher education and the investments that he made for our future. And so when he retired, we were developing the J. Bennett Johnston Science Foundation to honor what he had been doing in the Senate. And a lot of people don't know he made the initial gift to the Science Foundation from his leftover political campaign funds, which I've never heard of such a thing, you know, of people giving their leftover political campaign funds for something like a science foundation. And so it's really with great honor that we're able to come and give Jack this grant for this program named after Dad that continues his vision and his work that he did for so many years in the U.S. Senate. And with that, I'd like, worked very hard with the Greater New Orleans Area Foundation. And if Ron could come up, and my husband, who is also on the board of the Johns Foundation, we would like to go ahead and present the check for the first installment of the matching dollars to the LSU for from the foundation.
So, with that said, Jack, on behalf of the J. Bennett Johnson Science Foundation, in partnership with the Greater New Orleans Foundation, I'd like to present this check in the amount of $200,000 for
thank
the
you
Laborde
very
Energy
much.
Law Center.
Thank you all so much.
Absolutely.
Thank you. You know, Ryan, I might also add that in addition to this check being particularly meaningful because of its link to my dear friend and former boss, Senator Johnston, it's also very meaningful to us here at LSU that it comes from the Greater New Orleans Foundation.
Absolutely.
As you know, it's my hometown, and I can tell you from the highest authority at LSU that it is one of the top priorities of this university as a whole, not just this law school, to strengthen and reinforce our ties to New Orleans. So thank you on that level as well.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
More than happy. Thank you,
Okay,
Jack.
thank you. Thank you all very much. I'd like to ask Darrell Owen to say a few words. Darrell's a member of our Law Center Energy Program Advisory Board. He was here all this morning at our meeting. He was Bennett's Chief of Staff and has gone on to a distinguished career in this energy field himself. Darrell, would you please say a few words? Thank you.
Well, thanks very much, Jack. And as Jack indicated, I was one who was fortunate enough to work for Bennett Johnston. I showed up as a young intern sporting my three-piece polyester suit, which I recall being about the color of Bondo. And they sat me down and said, you're on a 3-day rotation. One day you're going to open and sort mail. The next day you're going to file and do errands. And on the third day, you're going to work with Bennett's Energy LA, Rick Richard. Now, so I was kind of hoping to do foreign policy, and they said, look, energy's the hot issue, Bennett's the hot energy senator, Rick's the hot energy LA, you got the hot spot, stick with it. And 36 years later, I'm still sticking with it. What I could not have known is how profoundly that moment would change my life. In addition to the opportunity to work for a prominent senator who was a great mentor and who instantly became and remains a dear friend, it gave me a 14-year front row seat on the most profound period of energy policy that this country has ever known. When Bennett arrived in the Senate, there was no energy policy. There was no energy department. There was no energy committee. We didn't know from nothing about energy. It was not until the Arab oil embargo that we got a rather uncomfortable wake-up call. And in the face of that, we were forced to realize we don't know anything about what our energy situation in this country. We don't know how much we produce, we don't know how much we consume, we don't know where it goes, we don't know how it's refined, we don't know anything. An energy policy was created literally out of whole cloth within a very short period of time. When I first started with Bennett, oil prices were controlled by the federal government. They were allocated by the federal government. Shortages were both prompted and regulated by the federal government. Natural gas prices were under price regulation at ridiculously low levels. All of this inhibited production, it distorted consumption, and it led to artificial shortages. And over a period of time, Bennett Johnston progressively got the government out of the business of managing oil and gas resources, allowing market forces to work. And that has been an unqualified success, and we still benefit from that as a state and a nation today. Along the way, in conjunction with that, we passed a couple of nuclear waste bills. We reformed the relicensing of nuclear power plants. We renewed the Price-Anderson Act insurance program for nuclear power. We privatized the Uranium Enrichment Corporation. We did deep water royalty relief. We solved the 8G dispute between Louisiana and the federal government, and we deregulated wholesale electricity prices. It was the most profound period of energy policy we will see, and as a student of history, I can't name any other era or any other subject matter area where as much was done in a short period of time as was done under Bennett Johnston's leadership. He was the profound and moving force. You know, we talk about how the Congress today is broken, and by implication, we suggest back in the good old days, legislating was easy. Legislating was not easy. It took commitment, it took creativity, and it took credibility. And Bennett brought those forces to work on behalf of a sound energy policy that benefits us all today. Bennett, I think what is so important about the gift that you are giving today is that it enables that legacy to continue. And I think that's important for a couple of reasons. One is memories are short. Later this year, a man named John Dingell, the longest serving member of the House of Representatives in history, is going to retire. When he leaves Washington, Bennett, I believe you and I will be the last two people who are still active in the energy policy area who were active when crude oil prices were controlled. And you are already seeing indications that people are willing to make the same mistakes that we made in the early 70s before you began to right the ship. And one of the things that I hope the Energy Policy Law Center can do is to memorialize that history and help us avoid those mistakes. And the second reason I think what you've done is so important, and Mr. Laborde, you as well, is that I believe we're entering a new and equally challenging area of energy policy. Markets have functioned remarkably well over the last 20 years, and we have begun to take things for granted. What is beginning to emerge now is that free markets that were designed and developed in isolation from each other are beginning to intersect in ways that no one could foresee. And there's friction. There's a very real possibility that we could have a calamitous electricity shortage in New England this year if the weather's cold. Not because we don't have plenty of gas, not because it's not affordable, but because market designs don't mesh between the gas pipeline industry and the electric industry. You've got distributed generation, which is coming up all over the country. Rather than 5 or 6 power plants, you may now have 500 or 600 people generating power. That's got to be managed. You've got intermittent power in solar and wind that comes onto the grid and goes off the grid. That's got to be managed. You've got to have an economic incentive to attract it. You've got to have a regulatory policy to manage it, to keep it stable and to keep it affordable. We're going to further interject externalities into our energy policy, climate change being one of the largest. That's going to present its own set of challenges. And what I believe is the ultimate goal of the Energy Policy Center, furthered by these two fine men, is that we are going to create the level of expertise at this university to go forward and to meet those challenges. So Bennett, on behalf of those of us who are your fans, your devotees, and students of energy policy, thank you for all you have done, and thank you so much for this gift today.
As I was listening to Darrell, you know, Mr. Laborde and Senator Johnston took very different pathways. Mr. Laborde became a leader in the development of the energy industry. Senator Johnston went into public service, both, I'm proud to say, using their law degrees from LSU, I hope, as important foundations for what they did. Both are now major donors to our law center. And, you know, when we think about naming something here at the law center, whether it be an energy program, a fund that's going to support our students, whatever it may be, we have to take into account not just the fact that somebody wants to give us money who's a lawyer and holds an LSU diploma, but we also have to take into account issues like integrity, honesty, credibility, and the like. And I think it's very important just to take a moment to note that as different as the careers of these two gentlemen have been, both of them stand for all of those kinds of character traits. And that, too, is very important, I think, to our students of today and to the future. So I just wanted to take a moment to say that while I had the chance. Now, I have also pleasure to call on, shall we say, my sub-boss when I worked for Bennett Johnston, and that was Bennett's administrative assistant, which for those of you not familiar with Hill parlance in those days meant chief of staff, if you will, Charlie McBride. Charlie was the AA when I went to work for Bennett as a young pup back in 1972, and we've stayed in touch all that time, have some interesting mutual connections along the way. Charlie, please come to the podium and say a few words.
Obviously, I wasn't expecting to do this, but I'm happy to do this. Darrell laid out for you all of the substantive things that went on when he was there. I was the chief of staff, and my job was essentially to make sure that we had plenty of community coffee and that we had legal pads and that sort of thing while they were working policy. But I got a chance. I was Bennett's first chief of staff, and like Darrell, I have been fortunate enough to keep Bennett as my dear friend all these years, 42 years since we started working together in 1972, when Bennett and I went on the payroll at the same hour in November of '72. As I listened to this, I was reminded of a story I told somebody not too long ago. Every year, those of us who work for Bennett are invited out to Bennett and Mary's Mountain Place out in Rappahannock County, Virginia, for a kind of staff reunion. And it's always a great gathering for those of us in the Johnston diaspora to get together and tell tales and relive stories. This occurred to me last year when we were there, a year before, for one of the milestone anniversaries of our time together. And as we stood out having drinks before we settled in for lunch, everybody is talking about various things that they did, policy matters that they worked on, and for almost everybody there were amazing achievements, and they are today and will be among the best professional memories of their lives, and one of the best professional associations. And I was so struck by the difference in that and what the generation of people working on Capitol Hill today will be able to talk about 35 or 40 years from now. And unless they are bragging about things that they stopped from happening, they won't have a lot to talk about in the way that these people do who supported Bennett and happily, because he was such a great leader and such a skilled legislator and frankly such an easy boss for all of us. So I'm honored and happy to be here, and thank you, Bennett, for this marvelous gift. And Darrell, thank you for those remarks. You captured it all really well. Thank you.
I think, Senator, let's see, I have to follow my cues here that Dr. Soniat gives me. Now, will you come forward? I'm going to take this off like this. Uh-oh. There we go. So this is a replica of the plaque that will go in our hallway near the Laborde Energy Law Center, which is being constructed actually right near the Chancellor's office in this sort of Hall of Fame walkway. Bennett's picture, I believe, this image of Bennett is already there as one of our distinguished alums and in various other capacities, but it says, this is, as you'll see, President Bush, who was a dear friend of Bennett's and was known to play tennis with Senator Johnston in their rare free moments, right? Right. President Bush had this to say: Senator Johnston's leadership and passage of the Energy Policy Act of 1992 moved our nation toward a comprehensive national energy strategy and a more secure and environmentally sound energy future. I'm grateful for my friend's commitment to the passage of this vital legislation during his years of leadership in the Senate and as chairman of the Senate Committee on Energy and Natural Resources, President George H.W. Bush. So thank you.
Jack, thank you so much, and Thank you, Darrell, and thank you, Charlie, and for all those wonderful, warm words. You know, the Bard said, "There's a tide in the affairs of men, which taken at the full leads on to fortune." Now, there is a tide in the affairs of this law school, which presents a huge opportunity for all of us. Jack is a very big part of that tide, coming in as chancellor, who's done just such an outstanding job. John Laborde for getting us started with that great grant. Our grant from the Johnson Science Foundation, I'm advised it'll be $800,000 in different tranches. I'm advised that that's already been matched by $200,000, so that makes $1 million. But that's only a start. The big tide, the exciting thing, is what is going on in this country in terms of the energy renaissance and revolution, of which Louisiana is right in the sweet spot. No state, no university has the kind of opportunity that we have because of God-given resources, because of the location of our ports, our water resources. All of those things combine to give this law school and the education of lawyers that have expertise in energy an opportunity that almost no law schools anywhere have. I believe that the law school here and the Laborde Energy Center can become preeminent in the whole country. As Jack says, we want to make this the West Point of energy. I really believe that that can take place. It was exciting this morning in discussion of the law school to hear from the engineering school and the fantastic things that they are doing, and the two go together. And the reason the engineering school is doing so well is because of the petrochemical industry in this part of the world, for which the engineering school will be the premier furnisher of talent for engineering. In the same sense, the Laborde Energy Center can be that fount of talent for the energy industry, and I believe it will happen. So Jack, under your leadership, we're going to make it happen, and as I said earlier, a lot of exciting things are happening at LSU, but none more exciting than the Laborde Energy Center in the law school. Thank you very much for allowing me to be part of it.
Not quite done yet, folks. Those of you who have been around me know that I always forget to do these sort of things. So Mary, would you and Bennett come forward? I have plaques for both of you, replicas of the plaque that will hang in the law school. One for you, Bennett. Mary,
great.
one for
Thank
you.
you.
So thank you all.
The Greater New Orleans Foundation is a community foundation. There's about 700 around the country. We serve the 13 parish area around New Orleans and a few surrounding areas. We run programs in various areas, health, housing, and workforce opportunity. So we raise funds, partner with nonprofits who are doing work to make our community better. That's the goal of the foundation.
Jack Weiss, who's the chancellor of the Law Center, for whom I have very high regard,